name is Avuru. I'm CEO of Seplat Petroleum, and we operate 5 assets in Nigeria, and responsible for crude oil production, operated production of over 70,000 barrels a day. But more importantly, particularly for this discussion, operated gas processing capacity of about 550 million scf of gas a day. We are responsible for about 30% of domestic gas supply in Nigeria and about 35% of gas to power in Nigeria.
Where does each of you see gas fitting into the fuel mix for power generation on the continent in the future?
For us, I'd like to take the West African sub-region, which is unique in a way, in 2 specific ways. There is existing infrastructure from Nigeria to Ghana, easily expandable to Senegal, that can deliver 200 million scf of gas per day today. And that is expandable to 600 million scf of gas per day. That, if it was fully utilized, would generate 2.4 gigawatts of electricity for the West African sub-region today. And that infrastructure exists. The gas resources exist. In fact, the 200 million scf of gas that is required to fill that gas pipeline can be supplied by Seplat alone today. So really, the solution to the gas to power problem in West Africa is not very difficult to crack. It just requires some regulatory firmness and an attractive fiscal regime for the private sector to put in the required capital and less government in running this whole infrastructure space. You know, the earlier presentation by Sahara, you saw the picture he painted about the West African power pool. That whole West African power pool can happen with the gas resources that are available and infrastructure that is already available to deliver the gas resources. And all you need is just to be teeing off from that major pipeline hub, and the gas supply to inland countries for power generation can happen very quickly. Now, what is required is a tariff regime for electricity that creates sufficient liquidity to power the entire chain. And unlike what Sahara was saying in the morning, I do not believe that the citizenry, or in fact that region, is unable to pay for the electricity. No. As he also pointed out earlier today, 90% of that electricity demand goes to commercial, industrial, high-end users that are able to pay, that are in fact already generating private electricity using diesel generators at 3 times what the normal tariff should be. So they are actually able to pay if you can generate and distribute the electricity. And so the tariff shouldn't be a problem, just the required regulatory firmness to ensure that the tariff is market-driven. Then you generate the liquidity that is required to power the entire thing. And as I said, once you do that, and the private sector moves in with required capital, then cracking the rest of it won't take too much time.
What do you see as the key challenges that governments need to address to stimulate the evolution of the domestic gas market?
As I said, regulatory firmness and just eliminate political timidity, because that's really what it is. I don't see that you are doing the population any big favor by insisting on a power tariff that is stifling the industry. And as I said, 95% of the potential consumers of electricity in these regions are actually willing and able to pay. The 5% that are unable to pay, even if you gave them the electricity for free and allow the 95% to pay market tariff, everybody will have electricity. So when we come up with a political argument that to win the next election, don't increase tariff, I don't know whose purpose is being served. So really, if we eliminate that, what I call political timidity, and just have a sensible regulation that stimulates the entire sector, these problems can be solved quite easily and quite quickly.
Could Nigeria afford a French crisis caused by energy tariff increases?
Which is exactly what I'm explaining.
Yeah.
And let me be specific and give you examples. Now, a typical little industrial outfit in Nigeria spends about 25 cents per kilowatt hour running big diesel generators to generate his own electricity because there's no electricity from the grid. The increase we're talking about is increasing tariff from about 4 cents to about 9 cents. It's still about half of what he spends on his own generation. So if that electricity was available at 9 cents on the grid, he'll be very happy and willing to pay for it. So it's a different story from where there is no electricity and you're trying to generate and induce the populace to pay. We're talking about where the apparent demand is 4 times what is available today. And that apparent demand is actually met by private generation that is already twice the price you're ready to pay. So the increase we're talking about will not generate the kind of political turmoil that people think about. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the increase will actually make electricity available and actually give you more political capital, in my view.
But recent technological advances should help the cause of developing gas to power throughout the continent, correct? It just needs to keep progressing with those.
LNG is virtual pipeline for gas transportation. And I'm saying we have a 200 million SCF gas pipeline that is easily expandable to Senegal and expandable in capacity to 600 million SCF. It exists. Now, I mean, that's the cheapest way to transmit gas from Nigeria to Senegal. Now, if you take that pipeline to Senegal, today, Ghana is developing gas to put into that pipeline and move from Takoradi to Tema. And then whatever volume shortage they have, Nigeria can supply. If that pipeline went all the way to Senegal, gas produced in Senegal, gas produced in Ghana, gas produced in Nigeria can feed that 600 million SCF pipeline. Quite cheaply, transmission cost to be about $2 per thousand. Now we talk about LNG, the landing cost of LNG in Ghana, if you put all the costs together, is about $9 per thousand. We can send $3 gas from Nigeria into Ghana on that pipeline at $5. So any discussion about LNG in the West African sub-region is simply refusing to do the very simple things that will solve the problem. Expand that pipeline, make it functional. Now you have 3 nodes to feed gas into that pipeline, not just Nigeria. So you can't argue about uncertainty of supply. You now have certainty of supply from 3 or 4 countries into a pipeline system that is so easy to expand. Well, I can tell you, we in Seplat's are pushing that frontier. We're going beyond Nigeria now to talk to private sector participants across West Africa that can join us in making that whole 200 to 300 million SCF of gas distribution across West Africa possible. If we remove the political knots that have made it so difficult to put even 70 million SCF of gas into that pipeline, we think we can drive a system that delivers gas to the entire West African sub-region.
Augustus, I got 2 questions for you.
Yes.
WACP, which is the pipeline, the asset you mentioned a number of times,
yes,
is built.
Yes.
Why is it used only at 40% of its capacity? Second question, in Ghana, you mentioned the famous LNG project.
Yes.
What's the most expensive project, the one which was seen by everyone as the most unlikely, is the one going ahead? If you respond to these 2 questions, would be great.
If Seplat, and I say this, being very careful, if Seplat were running WACP, we'll fill that pipeline with gas at a tariff that is half what it is today. That's the real crux of all that I'm saying. Less government, more private sector, and this infrastructure will be run efficiently and deliver the solutions we're looking for. And that's going to eventually happen at some point. It may not be Seplat, but it's going to happen.
But it's kind of, I'm sorry for cutting here. I think WACP was a World Bank project.
Yes.
And it just shows you how sometimes government-led projects done with the best intentions don't work.
Yep.
Right? I mean, we spent $1 billion of public money building something.
$900 million, yep.
So, but at the same time, again, technological advances, is a pipeline to Senegal, is it like telephone poles in India when mobile phones already exist? That's the challenge today, right? We've heard earlier, technology is moving really fast. We have to adapt to that technology. And there are things which are just more expensive than others and becomes cheaper than others. But would a Seplat running a WACP pipeline do a better job than the current environment? 100%. Right? It's we've been discussed internally. Yeah. Would I go actually all the way to Senegal? I'm sorry, maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah. At least up to gas.
Half of the pipeline. Good bargaining.
How can our sector contribute to a scientific, fact-based debate on the future energy mix?
We are proud to be leading this charge in replacing diesel with gas. In the next 3 years, we'll have close to 1 BCF per day of processing capacity for gas that is meant specifically into the West African sub-region as a domestic market. For us, gas to power and gas to industries is a major game changer because we are changing the narrative from exporting energy for revenue into utilizing energy as an enabler for economic development. So for us, gas to power, gas to industries goes beyond just a commercial business case. It's actually a national priority that we think we're leading in Seplat.